I have been in a relationship with Xian for 8 years. In the 3 days before the wedding, I discovered that he had tens of thousands of photos of the same woman on his computer. I secretly booked a flight to go abroad on the wedding day. I watched him perform nonchalantly. The bride ran away on the wedding day, but he went mad. Ms. Lee, are there still any spots available for the overseas branch office you mentioned last time? I have decided I will go. My boss seemed delighted to hear that I agreed to go abroad for training. All right, I'll submit your information right away. I just heard that you're about to get married. No problem, I won't get married. Don't worry. My voice trembled slightly. To avoid being discovered, I hung up the phone immediately after speaking. The eyes stared at the thousands of photos of female students on Xian computer, becoming slightly lost in thought. We joined the same company after graduation, and the two of us work in different departments. Tonight, he is attending a singles party hosted by his friend, with his phone turned off. The leadership could not find him, and they were anxiously waiting for the proposal. The phone call finally reached me. I then turned on his computer for the first time and discovered these photos. A moment, 8 years of memories flooded my mind. After being together for so long, I have never had a photo of me on his phone, and there are no records of our relationship. No matter how much I cry or fuss, he only says that we see each other every day, and there's no need to linger on it. Until this moment, I realized that it was not unnecessary, but that I was not necessary to him. For the past 8 years, I have made every excuse for his indifference. Stubborn appearance is like a joke. His friend's slip of the tongue when he learned of our engagement suddenly rang in my ear. Go on. I thought you would live in solitude for the sake of Su Man. Are you really getting married? Are you sulking? At that time, I didn't notice Yengu's distress look, and I slapped my chest confidently. We are for love. Now I understand the reason why he asked this question, and I no longer have the confidence to say this sentence. I took a few deep breaths and closed the laptop. I want to break up with Xian, but I saw that he hasn't even replied to my message about trying on wedding dresses yesterday. I opened my friend's circle, and it was completely dark with no activity. Only a single character below the profile picture. Wait. I drew a bitter smile at the corners of my lips and collapsed helplessly on the sofa. I did not know before that he was hiding others in his heart. I only thought that he was introverted in character and not good at expressing himself. Now that I think about it, I was simply absurdly naive. I've asked my friend about the profile in his social circle many times, but he hasn't answered me. I finally know the answer. There are 3 days until our simple wedding, and I've set a countdown as my phone's live wallpaper to remind myself every day. Watching the numbers on the screen ticking away, I rubbed my aching eyes and suppressed the fatigue in my heart. Just as I was about to book the tickets, Xiangu's friend called me. Rinjiang and Xiangu have had too much to drink. Could you come and take them back? I'll send you the address. On the receiver, I faintly hear Xiangu's familiar voice calling out to Man. The heart was suddenly and unexpectedly seized. The other party immediately covered the phone and hung up the call. I shook my head to shake off the unwarranted emotions, changed into my clothes and walked to the entrance, only to see Xiangu's half of the carefully selected couple's keychain casually thrown on the cabinet. This is a custom-designed shop that I found based on our experiences. He said it was too childish. He had never worn it before. I thought about it and threw the keychain into the trash can. I saw the unopened couple's mug under the coffee table again. It's like a silent mockery of my one-man show. A feeling of weary irritation welled up in my heart, and I picked up the trash can and threw all the couple's belongings into a bag. After throwing away the trash, I took a cab to the address sent by his friend. As I approached the private room, I heard laughter and playful questions from inside. Why did Man come back today? Couldn't it be that you regretted after hearing the news that our Xiangu is going to get married? I took a deep breath. A faint smile curled at the corners of my lips, and I pushed open the door and went in. The laughter and noise inside immediately ceased, and everyone had an embarrassed expression on their faces. The man who is going to marry me in 3 days is lying in a woman's arms with soft and affectionate expressions on his face. That woman's face, I have seen it countless times on his computer. Xiangu's friends did not expect me to arrive so quickly, and hastily reached out to pull him away from Su Man. Unfortunately, Xiangu seemed to have had a lot to drink and was completely indifferent. He muttered obscenities. Get lost. Don't touch me. This is the first time I've seen him this drunk. His friend leaned in and said, Rinjiang is here to pick you up. Wake up. You are about to get married. The others saw the situation and came forward to help. After a great deal of effort, they finally managed to pry Xiangu's hand off of Su-man. He slumped heavily into the couch, his face flushed bright red. His friend then heaved a sigh of relief and introduced me. This is our high school classmate Su-man, who went abroad in her sophomore year. She just came back today and happened to join our reunion. Xiangu drank too much. Don't overthink it. If it were in the past, perhaps I would have lost control and asked them on the spot. Although I know that Xiangu and I are about to get married, why did you bring Su-man here? Why didn't you stop it? I don't really care and just laugh about it now. Su-man beside me looked at me with a playful curiosity. Until Xiangu's friends started introducing my identity. Hearing the words fiancé, Xiangu, who had been silent on the sofa, suddenly spoke up in an angry voice. Friends. In an instant, the hand under my sleeve clenched tightly. The palm was sore from being poked by the fingernails, with a slight trembling. The people around me changed their expressions, and their gazes conveyed a sense of uneasiness. This is not the first time Xiangu has not wanted to publicly reveal my identity. Long before he refused to post on his social media, refused to appear together with me at the office, and refused to invite both our families to the wedding, I had already guessed our ending. I am reluctant to gamble my 8 years of feelings. I lost in the end. I still forced a smile and nodded to Su-man. Hello, I am Ren Jiang, Xiangu's friend. You look even better than in the photo. The room fell completely silent. The people looked at each other with different expressions. Su-man smiled indifferently, reached out to grab the fruit plate on the table. Xiangu, who had just fallen down, sat up straight again. Man, you're allergic to mangoes. You cannot eat them. The hand that Su-man extended stopped in midair, and his serious expression was quite amusing to see. I spoke softly. You're still the same as 10 years ago, fool. This is a watermelon. You're drunk. In that moment, it felt as if something in my mind had suddenly exploded. The shards pierced my heart, leaving it mangled and raw. He didn't forget. He just didn't care about me. Over the past 8 years, I have reminded him countless times that I am allergic to seafood, but his first choice for dates is always a seafood restaurant. I was angry at first, and then later I compromised, even deceiving myself. He is just too tired from work and has no room in his mind for anything else. But the reality has once again awakened me today. Every detail is revealing the fact that he does not love me. I expressionlessly helped him up from the sofa, and when I went downstairs to hail a taxi, Su-man chased after me. The gentle gaze looked fondly at Xiangu's face. He carefully warned me in my mouth. Xian's alcohol tolerance is poor, and he is allergic to the ingredients in hangover medicine. Go back and make him a cup of honey water. The water temperature should not exceed 60 degrees. He will be fine soon. Otherwise, he will have a headache when he wakes up in the morning. Xiangu never told me these things. I bit my teeth and didn't say a word, turned around and prepared to get in the car. She stopped me again. Sure. Why don't I give you my contact information? If he feels unwell in the evening, you can ask me about it. Xian doesn't sleep well after drinking. You need to pay attention to him at night. If he kicks off the blanket, you must cover him immediately. Otherwise, he will definitely have a fever tomorrow. My nails were digging into my flesh, and my eyelashes were trembling uncontrollably. He looked into her innocent eyes for a long time, and finally nodded. We became friends and found that the background of her circle of friends was actually a photo with Xiangu. The two people in the photo from 10 years ago are naive and youthful, their gaze resolute, their hands tightly clasped. The moment the car door closed after getting in, tears silently streamed down my cheek. I used to just hear others talk about the power of the white moonlight, and I just scoffed at it. Sincerity is always rewarded with sincerity. In this moment, my thoughts wavered. Xiangu's phone vibrated several times on the road, all of which were messages from Su-man asking if he had arrived home safely. I unlocked the screen, originally wanting to politely respond. I saw his chat logs with his friends. Fake marriage is my last chance. If she still doesn't come back, I'll really have to give up. Post the news of my marriage in the class group chat. Don't say too much to others. My fingers poised on the screen abruptly closed the phone. My breathing became labored. It's as if no matter how wide I open my mouth, oxygen is unable to enter my chest. The tears flowed down her cheeks, growing ever more unrestrained and tumultuous. No wonder he suddenly proposed to me 3 days ago. No ring, no wedding house, no betrothal gifts. Don't tell your family. I thought it was he who felt guilty for not giving me enough courtesy, thinking that my efforts had finally touched him. He didn't expect that the long-awaited wedding of 8 years was just a bargaining chip to lure Sue Man back to the country. The last vestige of my reluctance to let go of this relationship has finally been completely exhausted. I can only keep comforting myself. Since they have decided to leave, then everything about them is no longer of any concern to me. After arriving home, Xiangu's drunkenness had faded somewhat, and he went directly to the bathroom to wash up. I prepared him honey water according to Sue Man's words. I don't want to leave any regrets in this relationship during the last 3 days. As soon as I sat down on the sofa, my boss called. Discuss the matter of handing over the work at hand before leaving. The phone hung up, and Xiangu's irritated voice suddenly sounded. Leave? Where are you going? He wiped his damp hair with one hand and asked me a question with an expressionless face. I handed him the honey water, speaking softly. No problem, I'll go on a business trip. He couldn't be bothered to think too much about it, or he just didn't care about me at all. I took the cup and was just about to drink when I noticed that it had honey added to it. The brows and eyes tightened momentarily. The thundering voice demanded of me, "Who did you learn from? Don't browse the internet aimlessly. The content online may not be suitable for everyone." The cup was slammed down hard on the table, and he turned and went back to the bedroom. A wry smile escaped my face. Indeed, the way of the white moonlight is not something I can emulate. The next day was originally the scheduled day for taking wedding photos. Xiangu woke up as if nothing had happened. His attitude towards me remained as cold and indifferent as before. It is clear that after his tender affection for Sue Man, I will no longer feel that this is his innate nature. After finishing the meal, he glanced at his phone just as he was about to go out. Suddenly, "Let's not take the wedding photos in the park. Let's do it at the school instead. I see that's been popular online recently." My hands stopped while clearing the dishes. "Okay, I'll go with what you say." I know why he changed his mind at the last minute. Because Xiuman posted to his circle of friends about missing his alma mater and going to visit. I did not confront him directly about his childish lies. I just didn't want to embarrass myself as the relationship was about to end. There's only a day and a half left before I go abroad, and I want to leave something decent for each other. I guessed what would happen today before going out, so I specifically chose a wedding dress that was easy to walk in. The photographer took us to the playground. Xiangu looked up and gazed for a while, finally spotting a familiar figure in the corner of the shade. He didn't greet me, and the next moment he directly turned around to find Sue Man. I looked at the photographer with a puzzled expression and smiled sheepishly. "I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable translating that text without understanding the full context. Could you provide me with more information about what the text is referring to?" I'd be happy to assist once I have a better understanding of the situation. Even if I chose a convenient wedding dress, it was still difficult to walk in high heels on the track. I carefully made my way to Xiangu's side, and he was animatedly chatting with Sue Man. The groom's jacket was carelessly thrown on the ground. The moment my gaze fell on me, his brows furrowed noticeably. As if afraid that I would accidentally reveal our relationship in front of Sue Man, he quickly said, "What are you coming here for?" "I'll just chat with my classmate for a bit." I stared blankly, forcing a smile on my lips. The company has some unfinished business, so I need to go back there. I'm wearing a wedding dress and didn't bring my phone, so I can only come here to tell you. There was a flash of surprise in his eyes. If this had happened in the past, I would have definitely frowned at him on the spot, but this time I didn't say a word, as I didn't want to be a thorn in his side. His expression softened, and he nodded without a word. I turned around and left with a twisted ankle step by step. The sound in my ear is gradually becoming less clear. Don't overthink it. I just took an ad for a wedding dress shop, and they insisted that I and her take a photo together. I didn't lie. I was busy at the office all day doing the handover work after going back. In the evening, he unexpectedly had the meal ready for me when I returned home. As soon as I entered, he immediately put away his phone, his expression somewhat unnatural. "You're back. Why are you so late today?" "The food is already ready. This morning I saw you in your wedding dress, and it seems like you've lost a bit of weight." I paused for a moment. "Have you lost weight?" It seems that since seeing those photos, I haven't been eating much. At this moment, seeing the greasy dishes on the table, I frowned. "You eat by yourself. I'm not hungry. I'll go rest." The wound on her ankle from the high heels rubbing against it was exposed to Xiangu's gaze as she turned around. I had just entered the bedroom when he walked up to me with the first aid kit. This seems to be the first time in 8 years that he has shown concern for me. Alas, the wound has already scabbed over, and I no longer need him. I politely declined his kind offer, and Xian Gu's expression darkened. I got up and took a slice of cake and put it on the bedside table. I'm sorry, I didn't think she would go to school in the morning, and I've known her classmates for a long time, so I couldn't not greet them when I ran into them. Don't overthink it, me. Without letting him finish, I glanced at the cake on the bedside table and interrupted him. I have been quitting sugar for a long time, and I only eat boiled vegetables for meals, you forgot. To be in my best condition for the wedding, I lived a life similar to a monk for nearly a week. He didn't care about it at all. After being together for so long, this is the first time I've been rejected by you consecutively. Xian Gu finally lost his good temper, his expression returning to his usual cold indifference. He turned around and left the room, and did not come back in. My stomach growled in the early morning. I got up quietly and saw the faint glow from the screen of his phone in the living room. The light shone on Xian Gu's face, his fingers flying across the keyboard, his eyes crinkled with a smile. I felt a chill as I recalled that he said he never stayed up late, so he didn't want to stay up with me to see the new year in. I did not go to get water. I just turned around and went back to my room. The last day, it was the originally planned day to get the marriage certificate. As soon as I walked out of the room, he had vanished without a trace. There was no explanation, no message. I habitually open Sue Man's Moments, and as expected, I see her posting about being hospitalized and receiving intravenous infusion. When will you learn to take care of yourself? Even after 10 years, you still have to rely on me. An adult, how can they end up hospitalized when they clearly know the allergen? I have no way of knowing, nor do I want to waste any more time exploring. I spent a day packing my luggage. Xian Gu did not show up until the evening. Just sent a message about working overtime. I looked at the 4 big characters on the screen with mockery. He's not even willing to think about lying to me. That day, I called the project manager, and the other party specifically said that in order to let him rest assured during his marriage leave, they did not arrange any work for him. He is likely working overtime at the hospital right now. In the early morning, the countdown on the phone's wallpaper finally reached 0. I made do on the sofa for the night, and the next day I went straight to the airport after waking up and washing up. I am on the road, and I cannot help but feel fortunate. It's a good thing the wedding was fake. I didn't notify my family. Otherwise, I really wouldn't know how to explain the elopement to my parents. At the moment I entered the airport, I called Xian Gu to talk about breaking up. The ring-on had just started when the other party directly hung up. Then, he sent a voice message. Extremely impatient tone. I'll be there soon. Why are you in a hurry? Can I not have a wedding after saying I would? Man was discharged early to attend a wedding, and she got into a car accident on the way. Can you understand the situation? Calm down, my friends. I have something to tell you today. The voice playback ended, and I tapped on the keyboard to send him a text message with an expressionless face. Let's break up. The wedding is yours. I immediately blocked and deleted his contact information without waiting for his reply. I specifically set my phone to airplane mode and boarded the plane. 10 hours of flight, half of which I close my eyes, is our 8 years of coexistence. The love took too long, and loving him has become my habit. To suddenly part ways, it is as difficult to let go as it is to part with one's own bloodkin. When I set foot on foreign soil, I had a sense of feeling like I was in a different world. It feels as if everything can start anew. As soon as I opened my phone, the first call I received was from a frantic wedding planning company. Ms. Jiang, are you still having your wedding? The few remaining guests have already left. We have never encountered a situation like this with a dog before. The bride has not arrived, and the groom is also nowhere to be seen. We called Mr. Gu to explain the situation, and as soon as he heard you weren't present, he immediately hung up the phone in anger. It took us a lot of effort to finally reach you. My hand holding the phone froze in midair. I called a cab and said in a calm voice, "Then we won't do it. I've already paid the final payment, and your work is done. Thank you for your hard work." I hung up the phone and got into the car. The bitterness in my heart kept surging uncontrollably on the road. The last glimmer of hope that Xian Gu would frantically search for me when I went missing has completely vanished. All right, he even broke his promise to attend the wedding. How would he know that I ran away from the wedding? I hurried to the apartment address given by my superior, and just as I was about to go up with my luggage, Xian Gu's friend called again. We have broken up, and there is no need to stay in touch with his friends anymore. Let's be clear about this. I hesitated for 2 seconds before pressing the answer button, but on the other end I heard Xian Gu's furious cursing. Ren Jiang, what's wrong with you? Who gave you the nerve to block my number? Where did you go? Speak. I already explained it to you, didn't I? Man got into a car accident. I'm just here with something to do and can't get away. Can you stop messing around? Did you not attend the wedding today? Where are you now? Give me the address. My brow furrowed, and I said coldly, didn't you see the message I sent you? We have broken up, and I have no connection with you wherever I go. I've also blocked your friend's number. Don't contact me again in the future. I did not expect him to miss the wedding beforehand, and yet he had the face to call me and demand an explanation. I directly hung up the phone and added this number to the blacklist without letting him speak again. Carrying luggage, I stepped into the apartment building and took the elevator. I quickly tidied up the room, and as soon as I had relaxed and sat down on the sofa to rest, my boss called. There was obvious concern in the voice. Ren Jiang, haven't you told your husband about your trip abroad? He just called me and sounded like he was about to call the police, so I told him your address overseas. I held my breath, letting out a long sigh while looking at my phone. Oh well, it's nothing. I'll just say it. He's not likely to come looking for me anyway. We're not married, so he has no more to do with me in the future. The boss seems to have understood some of it from the brief words. Lastly, they just reminded me not to let personal issues affect my work, and then they hung up the phone. I impatiently ruffled my hair and opened the blocked message on my phone. I just saw his number all over the screen. For 8 years together, the number of times he has actively contacted me is less than today alone. How absurd and ironic. Perhaps he did not want his simple wedding to be missing both main characters, as it would be too embarrassing. I finally have time to open the photo album and clear the photos I secretly took of him in the past. My fingers slide along the screen, as if I have fallen in love with him all over again. The moment the photos were completely deleted and cleared, I got up from the sofa and headed downstairs. I'll have a bottle of whiskey. When we were together, because he disliked the smell of alcohol, even when I was deeply saddened, I could only stare blankly out the window. Otherwise, he will throw me out along with the alcohol. After the breakup, I regained my freedom. I downed the cup in one gulp as if in a fit of pique. The alcohol took over, making my mind gradually become hazy. I habitually open Sue Man's circle of friends, but see that she updated a post again 8 hours ago. 8 hours ago, that was when the wedding had just begun. A familiar hand was lazily draped over the hospital bed. When I'm with you, it feels like I have the whole world and I'm not afraid of anything. Tears welled up in her eyes. A cold smile played on my lips. My hands were trembling as I typed out a line of text. I made a mistake and deleted it and typed it again. After a while, there was an additional sentence in her comment section. You won. I'll give you back your whole world. I deleted her contact information, putting a final full stop to this relationship. The next moment after turning off the phone, I collapsed on the sofa and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, the alarm clock rang, and I went to work with swollen eyes after washing up. I was so busy dealing with the overseas branch on the first day that I didn't have time to think about him. Letting go of a misguided relationship is much easier than I had imagined. I haven't received any calls from home on my cell phone either. I thought our relationship would end here, but I saw a familiar figure under the office building of a foreign company when I got off work. Xiangu turned his back on the company entrance, gripping his phone with an impatient tone. Recurrent infection of the wound. Go see a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I still have some things to take care of here. Isn't it more convenient for someone else to visit her in the hospital rather than me going there? All right, don't call me until there's an issue. I glanced quickly and did not stop, walked around him and prepared to return to my apartment. He had just taken 2 steps when he heard the hurried footsteps nearby. Before I could run, my wrist was firmly grasped by Xiangu. Why didn't you tell me you were going abroad? Is it just because I took Man to the hospital? Didn't I already explain this to you? Stop making a fuss. Why have all the things from the house been moved out? Is that not our shared home? Do I not have the right to know? I thought I was already brave enough. To meet him again in a foreign land, to hear his reproaching words, tears still uncontrollably welled up in my eyes. I forcefully shook off his hand and turned to look at him. Tell you. Why do I need to tell you? Tell you what? Did you see thousands of photos of Sue Man on your computer? Or did I see using the wedding as a bargaining chip to provoke Sue Man to return to the country? His face was more worn out than I had ever seen, with bloodshot eyes sprawling across his eyes from staying up all night to catch a flight. If it had been in the past, perhaps I would have softened my heart and given up the opportunity abroad without him even having to speak, and obediently returned home with him. But this time, when I looked into his helpless eyes, I felt no sympathy or pity in my heart. Xiangu's anxious expression was frozen on his face, obviously not expecting me to look at his computer. The first reaction was to question me. Did you touch my computer? I didn't say that everything above is work-related material. Who made you see? Do I not have privacy? Realizing that his emotions were too agitated, he took a deep breath and was just about to explain. I let out a cold laugh on the spot. You are busy spending a single night crying in Su-man's arms, your group leader can't reach you and is anxious for the information. The call comes to me. Do you think it's because I want to see it? I can't stand to even look at it. This is the first time in 8 years of my relationship that I have given him the cold shoulder and a resolute attitude. Xiangu thought I was being jealous and making a fuss. When he spoke again, his tone was gentle and somewhat ingratiating. The things in the computer I can explain, it's just that they've been stored for too long and I've forgotten to delete them. Before, I was dumped by her for the wedding. You know this, I just said it in front of our friends to save face. I didn't expect you to misunderstand. You believe me. From the moment I said I would marry you, she had long since left my heart. Taking care of her was just a matter of moral duty as a friend, and now that she has returned to her home country, I also want to put the past behind me. His explanations sounded to me like excuses for his own behavior. The curve of the cold smile on his lips deepened slightly. Is that so? Xiangu, are you trying to say that you had an 8-year relationship with me without understanding the past? What am I? Sweep away the broom of your past memories. From the countless times you gave up on me and chose her, no explanation is needed. Your actions are the best answer. Don't you want to laugh at the words that come out of your mouth? You are not afraid that I am sad. You are not afraid that I am disappointed. You are not afraid that I will leave. So what are you here for now? Can you hear me say we're breaking up? His face grew paler and paler in the face of my questioning. He opened his mouth, but could not say a word. I turned around to leave, and he slowly spoke up. I can delete the things in the computer right now. If I said that I was initially wavering, but after hearing that you did not go to the wedding, I understood my own feelings, and now I come to make amends. Can you give me another chance? I didn't look back, nor did I say a word, and I left with firm steps in his expectant gaze. This time he didn't stop me. Can you give this relationship another chance? I have asked myself this question countless times since Su-man appeared. He was given countless opportunities. The results are clear. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes again. I returned to the apartment and simply washed up. Then there was a knocking sound at the door. A huge thermos lunchbox appeared in front of me. The sunny smile appeared from the side. I've heard that the food abroad is hard to stomach, so I've specially made this for you. Would you like to try it while it's still hot? This is the happiest he has looked when facing me for the first time. It's also the first time she's cooked for me. I was a bit dazed for a moment, and as I came to my senses, I directly slammed the door shut. He unexpectedly didn't get angry, patiently continuing to knock gently on the door. I slid down the door behind me, feeling powerless. Why do you have to wait until we're apart to love me? I no longer need it. He knocked for half an hour, and I sat on the ground for half an hour. The doorbell rang directly outside. The hospital seems to have called again. He ran out of patience and his voice became agitated. I already told you, didn't I? She went to the doctor because she was sick. The car accident was not my fault. My wedding was ruined, and I now have a very important matter to attend to. That stubborn creature argued with him at length. A sound of footsteps arose, and it became completely quiet outside the door. I then got up and opened the door, only to find a thermos left on the ground. Apparently, even if I eloped, I couldn't outdo her. I no longer want it. I threw the lunchbox into the trash can and ordered takeout on my phone. I had thought that Xiangu would directly buy a ticket to return home when he received this phone call. To his surprise, the next day he saw the man waiting at the door again, holding a bouquet of fresh flowers. I glanced over and pretended not to have seen, and then left. He followed in my footsteps and chased after me. I'll take you to work. I heard the security situation abroad is not too good. I'm not comfortable with you going alone. I stopped in my tracks upon hearing those words. Xiangu, do you find acting in emotional scenes very thrilling? When I was in the country, I stayed overtime countless times and waited for the car alone after work, asking you to pick me up. What did you say? You forgot. You say that other girls are also living this way. Does that mean that single people don't deserve to live? Hire a bodyguard if you're afraid. You have your own things to do. He blinked his eyes. I then spoke up. Now I also have my own things to do. Please leave, and don't come to bother me again in the future. I hailed a car by the side of the road. He also climbed in as soon as I opened the car door and got in. I admit that I was not qualified as your boyfriend in the past. Can you give me a chance to make amends? I don't want us to break up because of a misunderstanding. I don't want to waste any more time with him, so I'll just close my eyes and rest. His phone kept ringing and then turning off, and then ringing and turning off again on the road. I impatiently snapped, "Mind your own business. Do not appear in front of me. We have already separated. What is the meaning of you doing these things? Your sweetheart is in the home country, not here." The car had just arrived at the company building. I immediately got out of the car and closed the door. Not a single moment was left for him. As soon as I got into the elevator, I took out my phone and called Xiangu's team leader. Why can he take marriage leave if he is not married? Doesn't the company have any work for him to do? Can you please have him go back as soon as possible? The other party hesitated for a moment before speaking to explain. Xiangu is taking his annual leave, and there's nothing I can do about it. I hung up the phone irritatedly. For the next week, he haunted my surroundings like a ghost. Habits are a terrible thing. From my initial anger to later indifference, it only took a few days. The landlord of the apartment called me on the evening of the 7th day. The person upstairs complained that Xiangu was disturbing the neighborhood, and I've seen him frequently appearing in front of my door, so I asked him if he's my friend. I am filled with doubt, and after asking the landlord, he said that Xiangu has set up a tent below the apartment building and keeps the lights on all night. Whoever comes into this building, they must rush up and ask the resident's house number to confirm if they are a resident. Many people have already moved out of the apartment building because of this. I hurriedly got up from the sofa and ran to the balcony. There was a small tent below with a dazzling light shining from it. I called him after taking his number off the blacklist and asked for a long time. He slowly began to speak. "I'm worried you'll be unsafe living alone. I'm here temporarily, and I haven't found a rental apartment in this building yet, so I'm just staying in the apartment downstairs. I have some good news to share. I've already applied for the overseas training opportunity from our department at the company, and I've been selected." His excitement was palpable, like the me who once dreamed of the future and love. I had no extra emotions, said I know, and hung up the phone. That night, I couldn't sleep. It started to rain heavily outside in the early morning. My heart feels like it has been clenched. Looking down from the balcony, his position was not visible in the dim light. I restlessly climbed into bed, covering my ears, forcing myself to rest. The rain had stopped by the time I went to work the next day, and the sky was as gloomy as if the end of the world had arrived. His usual spot where he waits for me is empty right now. I paused for a moment, suppressing the disappointment in my heart, and took a taxi to the office. I haven't received any of his harassing messages asking for reconciliation all day. It started raining heavily outside again as I was leaving work. I waited for an hour before I was able to get a taxi. The heavy rain impacted visibility, and the driver could not clearly see the traffic signals when passing through an intersection. They were then struck by a vehicle that had suddenly emerged from the side, causing their car to overturn on the spot. The tremendous impact left my internal organs in excruciating pain, bordering on being crushed. In that instant, I felt the arrival of the Grim Reaper. I called out weakly to the driver for help, but after a long time, I realized that he was already at the point of death. The relentless downpour is pounding against the shattered car windows, and my cries for help are drowned out by the sound of the rain. The blood from my wounds is draining rapidly, and my body temperature is dropping quickly. In a hazy state of consciousness, the only person I could remember was Xiangu. Fortunately, my phone was inside my clothing. I mustered my last bit of strength to press the emergency contact button. The mobile phone automatically dialed Xiangu's number. He didn't answer the phone until the third ring had finished. The tears fell into the rain, and I lost consciousness completely. I woke up again and was kindly taken to the hospital ward. Xiangu stood by the bedside, her face pale. His chin was covered in a light blue stubble, looking quite pitiful. I closed my eyes directly and did not want to see him anymore. His face became flustered, his voice trembling. "I'm sorry, I didn't know you called me. My phone was turned off because the battery was dead. I just came from the country." Maman Schumann was given a critical condition notice. She said she wants to see me one last time. What's it to me? We have parted ways, and who you see is your own freedom. It is another instance of my own doing and suffering. You have to face a bloody lesson before you're willing to believe that you never had a place in his heart. The broken ribs make it difficult for me to breathe, causing a cold sweat to form on my forehead. He reached out to wipe me. I coldly said, "Get lost. That's enough. Don't show up in front of me again. Go find Sue Man." Xiangu finally realized that he would lose me forever. I hurriedly opened my mouth. "I've already gone back to check. I didn't expect her to deceive me with this matter. I won't be able to believe her anymore. I've also made it clear to her, in the future she and I have no relationship. Does it matter?" My voice was devoid of any emotion, and my gaze upon him was that of a stranger. The emotions in his eyes gradually opened up cracks. He opened his mouth wanting to explain, but had nothing to say. "Believe me once, Ren Jiang." I furrowed my brow, opening my mouth and enduring the intense pain in my chest as I breathed. "Xiangu, we have ended completely, forever. Don't make me hate you." His pupils trembled, and the hand he reached out to me froze in midair. My eyes, filled with hatred towards you, finally remained silent. After a stalemate for a few minutes, he was completely defeated. He turned and left the hospital ward. His figure seemed to disappear from my life. Besides the Chinese meal delivered to the ward entrance on time every day. After being discharged from the hospital, I returned to the company. As I passed by his department, he was focused on writing a proposal. We have become the most familiar strangers in this company. Even work-related communication has to rely on emails. 1 whole year. He thought he was hiding it well, but I still noticed the gaze that was fixed on me during the meeting. As time passes, it becomes increasingly hot and scorching. A large bouquet of roses was delivered to my desk. He rushed madly in front of me and questioned me. I watched his face crazed with love, just like my own from a few years ago. I calmly said, "Yes, I'm in love. I'll send you an invitation when I get married. It's the person who rescued me that rainy day." He left in a daze after hearing those words. The company sent out a message the next day that he had completed his training and returned home. This is our best ending. That day my boyfriend and I discussed the date of the wedding. I will be the happy bride this time.